going to take a moment to thank staff. Before we get started today, I wanted to first thank my fellow council members, city manager, and city staff for their ongoing collaboration, which I am very confident will continue today. I am also very confident of the abilities of this council and city staff, individually and collectively, that was exemplified last Monday. I also want to thank the people that are here today and who have written in or contacted me over the last week. It is wonderful to see resident engagement regarding our city. I encourage you to continue to be engaged and to be well informed. Specific to the point of being well informed, I feel it is important to briefly address some areas of feedback we have received. Many of the questions that came in touched on cost management. I am proud that this council and our city staff has had and will continue to have extreme focus on cost management. Examples of recent actions include a large reduction of energy costs and other cost savings measures. These savings are tracking to millions of dollars. These savings helped enable the passage of a lowering of the millage rate last year, while also investing in sidewalk and other repairs across the city after years of neglect. At the same time, we consistently ensure our reserves are well funded, providing a safety net for unexpected costs and long-term planning. I wholeheartedly expect that the city and this council will continue to be focused on costs, efficiencies, and saving initiatives that will provide even more opportunities to lower costs to residents and enable excellence in city services. Expect to see a balanced and prudent budget, as has been delivered in the past. Any projections or statements to the contrary are not factual. I'll now move to agenda item 2, which is citizens to speak on items not on the agenda. If you'll come forward and state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
I recently was granted one of my wishes on Mr. Haluba, and I believe a new city hall should have been a #1 priority. Definitely a priority over an $84 million park renovation that's left us with an amphitheater that, in my opinion, looks like a discarded box of pasta with, Alfredo sauce, of course. Given budget choices, and the hard ones that are going to be made, I recommend the city stop funding all of these charities, particularly the ones that Daniel Slaughter is associated with somehow. It's not a city function, it's wrong. Now, I recently made a request for Kathleen Beckman's newsletter email list. And this is the header of her newsletter. You can see that's a Clearwater email. In the footer, she solicits responses to a Clearwater email. The middle, you can read what I think about that. Mr. Margulies responded, and I highlighted the part there that's, I think is most important. That newsletter is sent out under the guises, whether it is or not, that it's a Clearwater document. It is unimaginable that anybody would think it's not subject to open records disclosure. Now, in the process of this, I was informed that Ms. Beckman demanded $500 to release that email list. Well, she has no standing to set open records request pricing. And most interestingly, partial list has already been disclosed. It's about 40 names. This probably took 2 minutes, 20 cents to print. I'm again requesting the entire email list of Ms. Beckman's newsletter be disclosed at a reasonable price, you know, within the guidelines of statute 119. Now, if we can't, do that, I become aware that open records complaints may be filed with Bruce Bartlett's office.
Anyone else for items not on the agenda? Comment for items not on the agenda? Okay.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Teresa Brown-Bosen. Today I am putting forward my enthusiastic support for our councilwoman and current vice mayor, Kathleen Beckman.
Can you pause for a moment? That's further on the agenda. Item to discuss placement.
We can do this further on.
Further on, yep.
Yes.
We're just on items not on the agenda.
All right,
Items
thank
not
you.
on the agenda. Sure, it's okay.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Rudolph Rudy Michaelek. I live at 855 Bayway Boulevard, Clearwater. And today, in the, I hope, items not on the agenda, I just wanted to make the comment that the council has a very demanding schedule in front of it. We have a strategic plan that I believe still needs to be finalized. We have a current budget that Ms. Poirier obviously is keeping very close track in terms of how we expend money versus that budget. She's also going to be placed in the position, additionally, of coming up with a new budget for this new fiscal year, as long as prioritizing the capital expenditure items that have already been listed out, I believe, in a work session. So, speaking actually a little bit more to her, if you would, she's got a tremendous amount of things on her desk. And I think the entire community, as I'm sure her staff, all want to be very responsive to her needs and making sure that she has the support from this council in terms of the direction. And typically, I know that the council each has certain agenda items that are important to them, and I respect that. But there comes a time, I believe, through the work sessions, that that's a very good opportunity for you to interact with our new city manager and make sure that she has a very clear understanding of where the city needs to go, not just individual council members, but where the city needs to go. And I ask for extreme support for her in this process. I've run very large organizations myself in the past. It's not a one-man show. It's not a four-person show. It's an entire organization show in order to get everything done and get everything done possibly. I think within that, some people have made comments in the community and innuendos in the community about what is and what can and what they believe the council is trying to do. I, on the other hand, take a very positive point of view that the council has looked at the wide range of topics and opportunities involved for the city of Clearwater. Then is the requirement of our city manager to see how you fit all those pieces together in a practical budget that works for everybody. Works for the city, works for the citizens of the city, as well as for the council and the management team that has to run the city. And so I wish all of you the very best of luck. I wish you all the opportunities available to you. And with that, I would say thank you very much for what all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy.
I wasn't going to talk now, but I'll talk later. My name is Mike Reardon. I live in Clearwater. I would like the city attorney to educate everyone about this email list that people want to get. I think when people sign up for an email, newsletter, or anything from the city, they don't think they're going to have, to quote my daughter when she's 15, sketchy people asking for everybody's email. And I think if someone wants a copy of the newsletter, they can get it. But I don't want my email being sent out to anybody that does a public records request. And I hope there's a way we can block that legally as opposed to, just saying it's $500 for that whole list. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that people would want to obtain everybody's email from a newsletter, especially certain people. And I think if you could put that on something to look at, I don't know if it's a state statute that we have to do that, give out everybody's email address, but I think if you sign up for a newsletter with the city, you should be made aware, our big bold print, anybody from anywhere, for whatever reason, can obtain your email. I don't think it should be done. And if there's any way to not have it happen, please have it happen.
Thank you. Anyone else to comment, items not on the agenda? Sure, come on forward.
Good afternoon. I just want to remind everybody that a few years ago, there was a referendum put before the people of Clearwater as to whether or not they wanted a strong mayor type of government. And the people soundly voted that down. And nevertheless, we ended up with a strong mayor. So as we go through this, I would like to remind everyone what the people of Clearwater have said, that we do not want a mayoral-centric form of government.
Okay. Anyone else? Items not on the agenda. All right, thank you for your comments. We'll move on to agenda item 3, which is our main agenda item today. I'm going to invite our city attorney, David Margolis, to speak about the process, the charter, and what we'll see play out here today.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. It's certainly engaging to see all the people who have come out today. City Attorney's reports doesn't normally attract this level of attention, so I have to say that it is very satisfying to see people have such interest in the City Attorney's reports. I hope that continues in the weeks and months ahead. Be that as it may, so the charter contemplates the council filling the mayoral vacancy within 30 calendar days, starting from one day after the vacancy occurred. And so by my calculation, more or less, today's going to be day 7. Thursday, April 20th will be the deadline that is expected under the charter for the council to fill this vacancy. The meeting was set for today specifically for a couple reasons. On one hand, knowing that we are on the clock, it was important to get everyone together as quickly as possible. There's not a lot of time to waste in this regard, but at the same time, we wanted to ensure there were at least several days' notice to the public so that people would have an opportunity to come out and, if necessary, to submit comments ahead of time for people who are not able to join us today. So I hope we were able to strike that balance in the right way between, on one hand, moving this process forward quickly as the charter demands of us, but at the same time giving the public an opportunity to be heard as well. Council has a lot of freedom in how to navigate this process. The charter does not restrict your options, nor does it restrict the process in most respects. The most important restriction is the fact that anyone appointed to the mayoral vacancy must meet all the qualification criteria under law. Specifically, that person must be a Clearwater resident, and if they are a former council member, it must have been more than 2 years since the expiration of their prior term. Beyond that, you don't have a lot of restrictions. Council is free to decide whatever factors are important to you. You are free to appoint or nominate an existing council member. However, to avoid any dual office holding violations, that council member must immediately resign their seat prior to taking office as the mayor. Beyond that, council has the option to, in fact, make nominations today. If the council is comfortable moving forward with a particular nominee today, you can vote on it today. Public will have an opportunity to be heard prior to you casting your vote. On the other hand, if the council would like to continue the conversation later on, starting that conversation today and setting another meeting, that is also within your prerogative. Council even has the option to set an application process. However, I would caution the council that because it is a 30-day timeline that is contemplated, there's not a lot of runway for the council to make that type of evaluation. Beyond that, There's not really a whole lot to say. If the council is unable within the specified timeframe to reach consensus or at least a majority vote as to who our next mayor should be, then a special election can and would be set with the supervisor of elections. The clerk has spoken already with the supervisor's office. One challenge is that because of their availability, a special election could not be set until November of this year. I know that's going to sound like a very long time for most people, but it's because of the fact that the supervisor bases their staffing and resources around anticipated elections. And there's no one who's holding spring elections in an odd-numbered year, so they're not prepared at this exact moment to have our mayor resign unexpectedly, and then they have to change everything and be ready for a new special election. So according to the clerk's information, it would be November before a special election could be held. That would mean that whoever were to get elected in that special election would only be serving for 4 months until the conclusion of that term. But that is not the default option under our charter. The default option is that this council is to make the decision expeditiously, and that's what I would encourage the council to do if you're comfortable doing so.
Thank you. Does anyone here have questions of Mr. Margolis or anyone else before we, all good? Okay. All right, then we will open it up to citizens to be heard on agenda item 3. So if we ask you to come forward, fill out a comment card, and you're limited to 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor, Council, Manager, Attorney, staff. Thank you for all your work this week. I'm Beth Davis, 1962 Harding Plaza, Clearwater. Thanks to all of you for a very long week and a long, hard Saturday of listening to the neighborhoods, because you were out there too. Thank you. No doubt you're ready for resolution as well. Let the phone stop ringing. Kathleen Beckman is ready and willing to be our mayor, and that Mr. Albritton and Mr. Bunker have already given her their public support is great. Her current experience in this job with the current issues is important. She should not be held to any former tradition of not running in 2024 again. Elect her today, and then let the voters decide if they approve of her work over these next few months. There's no time to waste. Our budget, as you know, starts October 1st. Fiscal planning and responsibility are at the core of her work and yours. We do not doubt this. She even suggested increasing our reserve at the work session a week ago. She's very protective of our citizens' money, always looking for savings wherever she can. It is obvious that she studies the facts and questions her concerns consistently. Her curiosity for the entire city and its responsibilities to our future long-term are key. She listens. You can trust her. Many who are unable to be here, 2 of my good friends, Gene Coleman and Timothy Proman, send the message. Kathleen's the right person at the right time in the right place. Elect her mayor today. Thank you.
Hello again. Teresa Brown Boson, take 2. Today, I am putting forward my enthusiastic support for our councilwoman and current Vice Mayor Kathleen Beckman to be elevated to the position of Mayor of Clearwater for the remaining term, abandoned by Frank Hibbard on Monday, March 20th, 2023. Kathleen Beckman's tireless dedication to our neighborhoods and her record of engagement and activism is well known in our community. Her work with Habitat for Humanity to support people seeking affordable housing shows her commitment to families and neighborhoods in need of fair, affordable, safe, good quality housing. She chairs the COC Continuum of Care, working to end homelessness, and is on the Tampa Bay Estuary Board and the Suncoast League of Cities. As a member of the Neighborhood Coalition, she has worked to improve voter engagement in Clearwater. Nothing could be more important than to voice our vote and choose representation that supports our values. Kathleen Beckman is an engaged leader who understands the importance of partnerships forged between business leaders and neighborhoods. to ensure the vitality of our city. Kathleen's strong passion for our environment sets her apart from other city leaders. As a strong supporter of Green Print 2.0, she has championed natural resources such as solar power to save on energy bills and make wise investments in our future here in Clearwater. For all these reasons, I support Councilwoman and Vice Mayor Kathleen Beckman to be our choice for mayor, a proven and inspiring leader. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the commission. My name is Bernard Fensterwald, and I live at 405 Jasmine Way in Clearwater. My wife and I recently moved to Clearwater from Dunedin, and we're happy to be here. I'm here to endorse Vice Mayor Kathleen Beckman for being elected today to the position of mayor. I don't see any reason for us to wait and have an election in the fall, because none other reason than the cost of having one, which I understand is over $150,000, and therefore we have a number of qualified people here, and Vice Mayor Beckman is the perfect person, expertise and temperament to implement the priorities of this commission. Thank you.
My name's Lisa Londa, and I just want to apologize to anyone. I repeated what Mayor Hibbert said to a lot of people, that, and I assumed it was in the charter. That when he said that a person who took the interim seat could not run for mayor. So I told a lot of people that, and I posted it all over the place. So I want to apologize to anybody. Apparently that is not in the charter. And I support, everyone who spoke in favor of Kathleen Beckman as our mayor. I'm all for it. Thank you.
Council members, my name is Gary Baker. I'm a resident of Clearwater. I think I know each of you very well, and I appreciate what each of you has done for the community. It's not easy to be a council member, and we all know that. It takes a lot of work, and you take a lot of ammunition coming your way. But we really do appreciate all the work that you do. And what I would say to the council is, because you've spent so much time at these work sessions, so much time with your wonderful city manager and your city attorney, and you gained a lot of knowledge and information. So I think any one of the four of you would be a good mayor. So I certainly wouldn't put strings attached to it, that if you were to run for office, you couldn't be mayor, because I think each of the four of you would be good. And I particularly support Kathleen Beckman. She's our vice mayor. She's done a great job. There's no one who's going to do their homework any better than she does. So I appreciate her her being on the council, and I support her candidacy for mayor. Thank you.
I second it. Sorry, everybody seems to be on the same page here. My name is Kevin R.T. Laughlin. I am 9 some years in Clearwater, 30 years, just last week that I moved to Pinellas County itself. I am 7 years, I was sitting in that chair just a few weeks ago as vice chairman of the Clearwater Marine Advisory Board. I'm in my second term, and I'm going to run out of time in about a year. But I've been involved in governments for some time as a citizen, never actively, like a dear friend convinced me to join the Clearwater boards. I miss the pre-COVID days when we would all get together and I would know all of you by name. I know Kathleen and Mark, and we've only met once, Lena, and I met you back when we used to have the community boards would have a little thank you party once a year, pre-COVID. So I would second that endorsement that Kathleen is the vice mayor, naturally assumes that seat. It'll be easier, I think, maybe for somebody to step up as a new council member, if that's the way it needs to go. But it's unfortunate that any of this may stall what we need to do and not fall in the trap that St. Petersburg fell into, where we say, oh, look how much it costs, look how much money we're going to have to spend to build a new city hall for St. Petersburg. It was the police station and the pier. Years went by, and the numbers went up. And it's the same thing we're going through on the Marina Board right now with our rebuilding of the Clearwater Beach Marina. If everybody isn't aware, it's going to be torn up. It's going to be rebuilt almost from scratch. It has gone from 30 to 50 to maybe more $1 million while we've overcome hurdles. We weren't going to do the seawall because we started planning this 8 years ago, before I was even on the board, and now the seawall has dated out to a point where now we can add it in. What does that do? It inflates the cost more. It's convenient in that it's the way it should have been done, but state and other regulations wouldn't allow us to take out that seawall because it hadn't reached its useful life. So let's not delay. Let's move on, get ourselves a mayor, maybe do what we have to do to find ourselves a council person, and keep up the good work. And welcome. I understand. I didn't know.
Hello. First of all, I want to say that I agree. This is the first time ever that I've come before the city council and was so anxious to see the attorney give that orientation. I mean, you're going to be a rock star now, I'll tell you. I want to say that I feel very comfortable with each and every one of you that is in the city council seat, and I think that each and every one of you can, and I would support to be the mayor. The mayor position in our city only has the same vote as another city council person, but it does have the ability of setting things up, orientating, prioritizing things, and getting things in order. And I think that this is the time to have one of you be able to stand up and take that lead, because you know what's happening, you know, you feel what is there, and after you select one of you to be the city council, then, shall I say, select you to be the mayor, then you can select someone to come in to be a city council member. But I think it's important for one of you. And personally, I said I feel comfortable with each and every one of you, but I particularly would give my endorsement. By the way, I'm Eliseo Santana. I'm a city of Clearwater resident for quite a while, and I definitely would like to see Kathleen Beckman be selected as mayor. I think that I will feel comfortable in that capacity with her here, and then you can choose to have somebody come in and sit as a city council member. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is George Courtwright, and I'm a resident of the city of Clearwater. And I'm here this afternoon to support the appointment of Kathleen Beckman as acting mayor. And I would say if brevity is the soul of wit, I intend to be hilarious. I will be very brief in my comments. I had a much longer presentation, but looking at the size of the audience here, out of respect for my fellow citizens, I will be very brief. There are really three areas I'd like to stress. One is Kathleen's extraordinary interpersonal skills. She's an excellent listener. She interacts with people in a very sympathetic and empathetic way. If someone asks her a question, she will give an honest answer, not necessarily what the person wants to hear. Another area that I think is very important that qualifies her to be appointed as acting mayor is her policy chops. She is very good with policy. I've worked with her on policy. She recognizes that the devil is in the details in most instances, and she has the persistence and the enthusiasm and the intelligence to delve into these details to see that whatever policy is enacted is in the best interest of the citizens of the city of Clearwater. And finally, I would conclude by saying that she is especially adept in her attitude of bipartisanship. She doesn't think that there are political labels that should be attached to the city services, that there aren't Democrat or Republican sidewalks or sanitation or other services of the city. So I would say in all of those areas, she is really extraordinary, and I hope the council appoints her as mayor today. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. My name's Peg Walton. I'm a resident, live near the high school. And I'm going to be brief where George said he was going to be brief, but I'm going to be. And I can be because I have worked with Kathleen, both personally and within the work of the city. And I just have to say, we're real lucky. We're fortunate that we have someone with her intelligence. I just reiterate everything that George just said. She throws a broad net around this entire community, and she loves it and cares for it. And I just think she's got the intelligence, the ability, and the concern for this community to be our mayor. And again, I think this is an easy decision to make, and let's move on. So, thank you.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Beckman, the other council members here present today, and everyone else on the dais. My name is Andrea Evans-Dixon, and I am a resident of Clearwater. Change is sometimes scary. And for those of us who are young enough to live long enough, we're blessed sometimes to be prepared for it. And then there are times when we're not, and we get sometimes resistant. I'm not saying that's the case for any of you or anyone in the audience. I'm just simply making a statement that change brings about a pause, and it allows for us, especially voters, but all of us in our own respective places, to evaluate where we want to go. And what I'm here to say today is that I'm young enough to know that in any vice position, as well as when you were first nominated in an elementary school and you became the vice, somebody thought you being the vice would put you in a good position if you were to have an opportunity to take the position. And so we should not take that lightly. And I endorse Vice Mayor Kathleen Beckman, but not so much because I know her personally, but because of what I've seen since she's been on the council. I ditto everything that everyone said, so I won't repeat that, but I do know that there is no one personally that I've known on the council that has given such a tremendous voice to every single person, even if you don't agree with everything. And that's the beauty of our democracy, is that we can agree to disagree, but as long as it moves the city forward, it's all good. And so I stand just simply asking that we don't run away from change. She's aware, and I'm sure you each are as well, of what we're facing as a city. We know what needs to be built. We know what's in the process of being built. We know what budget items, need to kind of take priority. Let's get on one accord, get behind who will be the next mayor, prayerfully, and we move the city forward. Thank you.
Hi. Good afternoon, Council. I'm Paula Schur. I've been a resident of Clearwater for over 40 years, and I've been impressed with Kathleen Beckman, and I too would be happy with any of you becoming mayor, but I support Kathleen. She listens, and I think that's what makes all the difference. You don't have to know everything, but you do need to listen to people, and she does. She has the experience, the knowledge, the leadership, and Clearwater needs continuity right now, and Kathleen's the one. Thank you.
I just forget to get a card. This is me. My name is Mike Reardon. I'm kind of split. I endorsed Kathleen. I think I wrote a small check and I think she's done a great job. At the same time, I'm a little concerned about appointing someone for 11 months new that can make motions. If those are, some people aren't aware, the mayor can't make a motion, but now we're going to put an unelected official, an unelected person in an official's position who can make motions. And I think we do have a good option in Brian Onk Sr. We'd had an excellent option in George Creticos, but he moved to Bel Air, I just found out. So I'm a little torn, but I would wholeheartedly support any four of you. And a few people may be not aware that not that long ago, I think it was Vice Mayor Albritton, because it just rotates every year. So, and he's got more experience. You want to be mayor? You still with us over there? But I wholeheartedly support Kathleen, if that's a position of the council, and obviously the pack of friends and family or whatever. I don't have any problem with that, but I have some reservations about it, only because originally this was going to be an open seat, and Kathleen knows that I've had people pushing me to consider running for mayor. I haven't decided anywhere close to thinking of doing that, but I do know people who are running for mayor. They're now not going for an open seat. And I think it was even mentioned by George Creticos, the most important thing is the person gets the spot and leaves. And Brian Onk Sr. is exceptionally skilled at being mayor for 8 years at being kind of the face, the public, the little more high-profile position that the mayor is than the rest of the council. Every time a hurricane, you don't see a council member, you see the mayor out there, hunker down. So I think he's an excellent option. I could vote either way. It's a coin toss. But if the position of, the majority position of you all is Kathleen Beckman, I wholeheartedly endorse it. But you can't make any motions. So, anyway, I think you all have done a fantastic job since all the drama of last week. I didn't think it helped that we had a commissioner out front saying things that he didn't know what he was talking about, making columns in the paper and talking on the TV station. This is not a crisis in my life at all. This is not even on the top 1,000 of what I consider a crisis. We have a great group of people. We got young, energetic, 2 top city officials and our attorney and our city manager. Not that you're not young, Mike, but you're not as young. Hang on. Thank you. So, the baby's over here. I'm in my 60s. So I really appreciate how great a job you all are doing. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilman, City Manager, Attorney. My name is Frank Chevis. I'm a property owner in Clearwater. Own some businesses in Clearwater. Been fortunate enough to be a big part of this community. And I think we're also fortunate that to have someone like Brian Onk willing to step up to fill this unprecedented vacancy. During his time as mayor, he did a hell of a job. The transformation of Clearwater that resulted in $750 million of economic improvement, beach by design, beach walk, the bridge, this library we're in right now, recreation centers, the Philly Stadium. I can't think of a better candidate to fill this important position. This is not a position for someone with no experience in that role. I think, and I think the council is outstanding council, and I think Brian Onk will just enhance it for the next 11 months or 12 months, whatever it takes. And again, he's not interested in running for mayor. If you need someone to fill the vacancy, I think he's the man. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Sherry Heilman. I own Heilman's Beachcomber and Bobby's Bistro. I'm here today as a business owner on Clearwater Beach to support Brian Onk Sr. as the interim mayor. Brian understands the role of mayor for the city of Clearwater as he held the office for 2 terms. He brings much-needed experience to this council as we need a stabilizing force. Ms. Poirier will also greatly benefit from Brian's guidance and knowledge as she navigates her new position as our city manager. This has been the most challenging spring break on Clearwater Beach in our 75 years of being in business on the beach. Brian brings not only support of business and community, he brings consistency in leadership. Brian is credited for being the catalyst in attracting economic development to a once dormant Clearwater, as you all remember that time. During his 6 years, he attracted over $700 million in economic development. Brian also spearheaded this library and building multiple community recreation centers, as well as what we know now as Baycare Park. This put Clearwater on the map. Sports Illustrated named Clearwater Sports Town, USA. Brian gets things done, and there is a very long list of needs that we have for our city. Brian Ong Sr. is the person who should sit in the mayor's seat. He should be the one to oversee our city council's decisions and the development of our city. This city council, city manager, our great city, will benefit from all that Brian has to offer. I ask you to support him in the role of interim mayor. Thank you.
Hello, David Yates, 1108 Lennox Road, West Palm Harbor. I'm the former CEO of Clearwater Meeting Career. I'd be remiss not thanking the city for all the support of my career endeavors over the years, so thank you for your support of the work at Clearwater Meeting Career. I've ran 2 companies over the years. I ran Clearwater Meeting Career and I ran the worldwide Ironman company. I take a very simple approach to hiring, and I think all you would be very qualified to be mayor. I take a very simple approach to hiring somebody. If I needed a quarterback, I found somebody who'd been a quarterback before. And I think adding Brian Knox Sr. to this role, being a former mayor, would bring his experience, would bring stability the city needs right now. He's done that role. He's not just been on council, he's been in the mayor's position. So I think Brian Knox Sr.'s added to this great council we have right now. His experience would bring stability and would do a lot of things moving the city forward. So I think hiring somebody like him now, as having experience as the mayor, not just a council member, would be very key for the city right now. I think he has a lot. I think Brian is looking for a job right now. He's happy to do this. He sees where the city is. He's a community service kind of a guy. That's what he's about. So I strongly support Brian being the mayor at this point in time with this council. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melody Fagurski, 2975 Eagle Estate Circle West in Clearwater. I am here to support Brian Ungst. I have known Brian Ungst for years and years. I moved here in 1975 and worked a lot with him. When he was mayor, my husband was on the community development board for him. And I think right now it would just be good to have someone who just wants to come in for 1 year. Brian has no interest in continuing this, but he's very willing to serve in this position. He has a lot of experience and he's always done a good job and thought his time with the community was very important. I won't repeat all the good things he's done because I know we're running out of time here, but I just wanted to show my support. But also, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
My name's Andrew Walton. I'm a resident of Clearwater, recently retired pastor in the community for 7 years. I usually come at things from a little different perspective. I've spoken here before on other issues, and I'd like to speak about, I think, what would be Kathleen Beckman's ability to work collaboratively. I think those of you who are on the council with her have already experienced that. I have experienced it personally as she has been involved in different aspects of the faith community as I pastored here for the past 7 years. I've cooked breakfast with her, stood beside her at the grill as we prepared meals for homeless people. I've worked with her on several different projects to help people in a collaborative manner. I think we've also heard from another speaker earlier today that the people of Clearwater spoke clearly a few years ago that the people of Clearwater don't want a strong mayor government. They want a collaborative government. They want a mayor who's going to be involved with the council and leading the council and guiding the council and being part of the discussions. And I think Kathleen Beckman would be the perfect person for that. With all due respect to former mayors who may be seeking the position, I think what the city of Clearwater needs right now is they need forward rather than formal. And we've got a forward-thinking city council right now. Wonderful things happening. And great things have happened in the past, but we need to be focused on the future. And with that encouragement, I endorse Kathleen Beckman to be the mayor that continues this progress forward. Thank you.
Hello, my name's James. I wrote down what I was going to say, but then after hearing everyone here today, I've decided to wing it. I don't know any of you, but what I do know is what's happened in the city of Clearwater over the past 15 years that I've lived here. I've seen violence. I've seen small businesses go under. From 1999 to 2005, there was a growth in Clearwater. I know that from family that's lived here, from friends that were here during that time. I don't believe that any city council member should be in the position of mayor at this time. I believe that whoever comes in as interim mayor should not run for re-election. Again, as a city council member, you would be able to make motions as mayor, and I do not believe if you are not elected, you should not be allowed to do that. So I would ask that whoever may be elected or may be put in this position make a commitment that they will not run again in 2024, and they make a commitment in front of the citizens of Clearwater, the state of Florida, and the entire United States. We need a leader that has a proven track record, a proven record of stability, which is what this city needs. As I sit back here, I've heard about change. I've seen each council member smile throughout this process. Right now, this is not a good time to smile. This is a serious matter. We had our leader stand up and walk out on us last week. A couple weekends ago, I taught my children how to ride their bikes without training wheels. And hours after hours, they wanted to quit. But I told them, you have to work through the pain to get to where you want to be. And after a weekend, I have 2 bike riders. So for anyone here that supported Frank Hibbard, unfortunately, he quit on us. He doesn't have a say anymore in this city. We need somebody that's going to stand up for us. Again, someone that will not run for re-election, and I believe that person should be Brian Knox Sr.
Good afternoon. My name is Anna Holder, and I am a lifelong citizen of Clearwater. This beloved city is where I live, work, and play. As an individual, I see and recognize the challenges there are that we are faced in running Clearwater. Growing up, my family owned a business in downtown Clearwater from 1988 to 2006. At that time, we faced a transition period in our own family, but also downtown was facing a transition to move the main thoroughfare from Cleveland Street to Court Street. I've watched Clearwater grow, but our downtown is still a challenge. As a concerned citizen, I'm here to advocate for Brian Inks Sr. to serve as our interim mayor. During this difficult season of transition, we need proven leadership, stability, and guidance. I believe Brian Inks Sr. represents that. His past experience serving as the mayor of Clearwater will allow him to bring his knowledge and experience to our community during a time that we desperately need it. Between his experience and conservative leadership, I believe Brian Angst can continue to support the vision of Clearwater that we all share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Wegner. I live in Countryside for over 30 years, and I've known Brian Aunk Sr. for over 30 years. He's a man of high integrity. He was a great mayor, and he's willing to help stabilize the position at this point in time. So I hope that you guys look to appoint him to be the interim at this time. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Grant Wood, 2807 Westchester Drive North. I'm here to show my support for Brian Aunk Sr. as well. A lot of very positive comments have been geared toward Ms. Beckman. I have not yet met you, but I appreciate everything that you've been doing, and as well as the council this last cycle. We're in an unfortunate circumstance with losing our mayor. However, I do believe that past experience is a very strong determinant of future opportunity. I've known Brian for nearly 15 years. When I first moved to Clearwater, he and his family welcomed me to the area, introduced me to a lot of people who I still have current relationships with today. Many people today have already mentioned all the things that he was able to accomplish along with the council that he presided over during his tenures. And I'd just like to echo that. But also add to it the continuing involvement that he had in Clearwater after he was out of his mayor's seat through his relationship and with Bright House Networks and the community involvement that he had from that organization with nonprofit organizations, with events, and the overall promotion of Clearwater. He never really left the mayor's office. He was always engaged in this community, and I think he's a dedicated person that absolutely loves the city, and I'd love to see you consider his nomination for the mayor. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dennis McDermott. I live on Lakeview Road in Clearwater. And although I'm relatively new, I moved here about 5 or 6 years ago. My family's been here since the 70s. I never met Brian Aunk Sr., and I only know of him because of some historic information I've uncovered regarding some of the things that went on in the beach. And I don't have a prepared speech, so I'm not going to say any more, but I think that as I've observed, Clearwater has gone through really a kind of a leadership crisis in so many ways. If you look at an org chart from the city from, say, 3 or 4 years ago, there are almost no names on that org chart that appear on the current org chart, which could be good, it could be bad, but I think the most important thing we need to do right now is ensure that there's continuity, that we're doing things in a forward-looking way. Kathleen Beckman is currently the vice mayor. As someone earlier said, there's no more logical next person to step up to the mayor's chair than the vice mayor. And Kathleen is certainly qualified, as you all are. But I think bringing in someone who has a cloud over his legacy is just the wrong thing to do at this time. So thank you.
Good day. My name is Amaro Lionheart. I am candidate for Congress in District 14. I'm also a citizen of Clearwater. I hear that there is a lot of support, person and person on this council. I am actually throwing my support for Mr. Brian Aunk Sr. I know his son, he is a great person, therefore his father is just as good. We cannot afford to have a tax-to-spend Democrat running the city to the ground. a tax and, tax and spend Democrat, a radical leftist, a socialist. So we're not going to allow Clearwater to become another St. Petersburg or another Tampa. We need a fiscal conservative to serve as mayor. We cannot have somebody who is going to spend money like a drunken sailor, who is going to allow hordes of homeless people and turn this into a Los Angeles or a San Francisco-style city where there is no law and order.
You need to be quiet and let people speak. Thank you.
So, again, another issue that we have is I'm a working professional. I'm an educator. I had to take time from being with my kids to be here. Now, there are many other professionals that cannot be here today, given the fact that this exact meeting was held at 1:30 instead of 5:30, or a time that other professionals can be here. So I urge the council to support a fiscal conservative, such as Mr. Ongst Sr. or Mr. Albritton. I know he doesn't want to take the job, but we need somebody who's going to show that they care about this city. They want to uphold law and order. Even Ms. Lena is a person that cares about law and order, that cares about our law enforcement. We can't have our businesses go underwater. You go around, all around here, we see businesses that are going under. We see a person that is actually beholden to the Biden administration, and will continue that type of deal here in the city of Clearwater. We cannot afford that. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay.
Hello again. Like many people here, I've lived in Clearwater for more than 30 years, and I've watched the changes in our community. I watched the deterioration of downtown. I've watched the beach change from being a friendly neighborhood beach to being a tourist destination where it's hard for locals to go to. I'm watching Coachman Park do the same thing, a destination that's not really meant for us who live here, but for people from out of town. This is all under the old administrations. And being here 30 years, I've heard a lot of the same names being bandied around. Ongst is one of them. And a lot of the people, I can't help but notice that a lot of the people that stood up and spoke today, several of them are wealthy and influential people who have been wealthy and influential in the community for a long time. And they've been in favor of Mr. Ongst Sr. A lot of the people who spoke up in favor of Kathleen are from the neighborhoods. They don't have strong, powerful voices in the businesses that go on around here. You still hear the same names. If anyone's been following the neighborhood council and the problems that neighborhoods have had where there's suddenly development in their neighborhood that is not in line with what the nature of their neighborhood is like, you will find that these neighborhoods, you'll see that they've stood up and they said, what's going on? We want to do this. But they're a day late and a dollar short because the same name, Ongst Jr., has been working with the city for years and things are in motion. It seems to me, watching this and knowing what I know about Clearwater, that this is a choice between business interests or citizen interests. Kathleen has been reaching out to individuals in the city consistently over the time she was campaigning and during the time that she has been on the council. I have found Kathleen to hold up the values of collaboration, transparency, accountability. She will be a mayor if you choose to do it, who will collaborate with all of you, as well as with the people of Clearwater, as well as with business interests, but not only business interests. She will not be beholden to any powerful interests within the city of Clearwater. So I encourage you to choose Kathleen as mayor and then vote her into office next time around. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Gilbert Janelli. I'm a charter member of Skycrest Elementary School. Tells you how long I've been in Clearwater. And I'm throwing my support behind Brian Ongst. I think he's perfect for the job, the interim job. All of you guys have done a great job, and I respect all of you, and you will continue to do a great job. I think Brian can work with staff. He has kept up with city affairs. He has an impeccable background as a mayor for 8 years. And I think for the next 10 to 12 months, he's the perfect choice for all of you to support for the interim mayor. I see no downside risk of him taking that position. And I believe he would be the best person suited for this interim job. Although all of you are doing a great job, and any one of you could step into the shoes and do a perfect job as well. But I think he's the ideal person to work with staff out of anybody else that might come into that position. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maura Hedrick, and I know all of you that are on the council. I live in Morningside Estates neighborhood, and I've been in that neighborhood for over 34 years. I'm also a retired Pinellas County school teacher, so I know what it takes to collaborate, work with, be accountable to, facilitate, and those are all the qualities Kathleen has. You guys are awesome. A great example of collaboration, transparency happened after the mayor walked out. You guys were awesome. I gave Lena a big hug Saturday when I saw her because I was so proud of all of you. And David, I spoke with you. So proud of how you facilitated, collaborated, transparent, every single one of you. And that's awesome. I don't even think we need a mayor. Sorry. All we need is someone to break the tie, if there's a tie, okay? Really, you guys are awesome. And those are the words that we need to think about. We need a facilitator, a collaborator, transparency, someone who's willing to talk to everyone. And Kathleen and I have had those conversations about, you need to come over to Morningside. You know, Clearwater extends all the way to the bay, for crying out loud. You know, so I'm a big proponent of that because I live east of Belcher Road, and not too many people know that that's part of Clearwater. So anyway, and this is also, and Kathleen, you said this at the beginning, this needs to be seamless. It needs to be like the smallest speed bump we have in our neighborhoods. We don't need to have someone who was mayor 18 years ago to come in and catch up. Oh my goodness, you guys all know what you go through and read every single day between the attorney and between I forgot what you're doing. Anyway, from all the information that you give them every day. That's a lot. You spend hours and hours and hours every day doing your homework and catching up. We don't need someone who's going to need to do a catch-up. You don't have time for it, for crying out loud. You don't have time for all that. So we need someone who's current and who's willing to step up. And my vote would be no new mayor, just someone to break a tie. So thank you so much for all the hard work you're doing. We really appreciate it. And I know you'll do the right thing because I trust all of you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is James Judge. I was born here in Clearwater at Morton Plant. I grew up in the Meadows next to Morningside. I went to Skycrest Christian School and was a member of Calvary Baptist Church here in Clearwater. While I no longer live in the city limits, I do own a business that regularly conducts business here and represents other businesses and individuals in the city and the greater Tampa Bay area region. I also recently won the primary in Florida's 14th Congressional District to become the Republican nominee for the area, which includes Tampa and St. Petersburg. While I won the general election and the early voting election, I did lose the mail-in votes, but I still represent about 113,000 voters from the Tampa Bay area, which makes up more than 43% of the voters in District 14. Clearwater is uniquely important because it has Clearwater Beach, which is one of the largest economic engines of the Tampa Bay area. First, I think choosing to host a city council meeting at 1:30 in the afternoon on a Monday for a matter this important when the majority of citizens have to work is beyond disappointing. This meeting should have been held outside of traditional work hours when those who work hard to pay the tax dollars you're trying to spend could attend and have their voices heard. While it may not be a requirement according to the charter, the council should not appoint a person to mayor who has expressed intentions to run as mayor in the next election. It will give that individual an unfair advantage in the next election. I would recommend for the city to appoint someone who pledges that they will not run in the March election. If that's not possible, there's nothing wrong with having a special election, especially when all of you are elected officials. We should honor and respect the electoral process. Finally, I believe it's grossly irresponsible to appoint anyone who wants to spend $90 million on a new city hall when the beautiful 90,000 square foot building that we're standing in and sitting in could easily have been converted 30,000 square feet to utilize a city hall and still had 60,000 square feet of library space. I respectfully request for you to respect the electoral process and allow citizens to choose rather than a rushed midday meeting where the majority of voices cannot be heard. Thank you.
Anyone else to speak to agenda item 3? All right, thank you all for your comments. Mr. Margolis, any additional clarification, anything you want to add?
Not at this time, unless the council has questions for me.
Good. All right, so. Yes. I'd like to begin this portion of the discussion by hearing from each council member your thoughts on how we fill the vacant position. And I'll start from my right with our most senior council member, Councilmember Albritton.
You know, over the past week, I've had many people reach out in person, by phone, and by mail with opinions on why our mayor resigned and recommendations on who should fill his seat. I've considered all recommendations, and I want to explain what qualities are important to me in filling the position of a mayor. This person must have experience in this position. Since the first of the year, we have experienced uncertainty with the firing of our new city manager after only 1 year, but I think we lessen the impact of that by appointing our interim city manager to city manager quickly instead of going through a timely search. Now our mayor has resigned, and it is our duty to fill his position quickly with a person with experience and who has strong relationships with other governing bodies and organizations that work together with Clearwater. Each of us sitting here could do the job of mayor, running the meetings and fulfilling the duties of mayor. However, none of us have had the experience representing Clearwater on the TDC, dealing regionally with mayors from neighboring cities on regional issues. The mayor's job is to shape consensus with the council. We have a council of 5 representatives of the electorate with diverse thinking. I see that as a strength, not a weakness. None of us get our way all the time, but we discuss issues and we do reach a consensus and move on. Last Monday's meeting was a special meeting to give staff a list of our priorities for the next 10 years. A new city hall has always been high on my priority list. Council has been talking about this for over 20 years. Whether we spend $90 million or less, this is a discussion for another day. It's unfortunate that Mayor Hibbard has alluded that the council is fiscally irresponsible. I want our citizens to know that is not true. Each of us takes pride in the fact that Clearwater is financially stable, has very healthy reserve funds, our pension fund is fully funded, and we have a high bond rating. We do have an aggressive strategic plan for the next 10 years, but we are early in the budget process, waiting for staff to give us timelines and funding options. We have unfinished business with several big issues, including extending the Philadelphia Phillies contract another 30 years. Clearwater's had a strong relationship with the Phillies for 75 years, and they have always had a positive economic impact on Clearwater. It is important to extend our relationship, and it is important to have a person with the knowledge and experience to navigate these negotiations. Calling upon former mayor is my choice for this position. Our last mayor, George Criticus, has moved from Clearwater, therefore he is ineligible. Brian Ox Sr., however, volunteering to fill the position for the remaining year, has the experience and the relationships needed for the business at hand in the upcoming year. He is not running for mayor a year from now and has the qualifications I'm looking for. It's important to reach a consensus on appointing a person to be mayor today. We need to right the ship quickly so we can move forward with many exciting projects that are in the works and give our citizens, employees, and staff certainty in city government they deserve. I guess with that, I move to appoint Brian Augst as our mayor, interim mayor.
Well, I had asked to have each council member make their statements. Can we let them make their statements
Sure.
first? Are you okay with that? Okay. Councilmember Bunker, would you like to weigh in? So
Yes,
the
I would.
question was, your thoughts on how we fill the vacant position?
By the time Frank had finished packing his stuff up and left the room, I had already decided that I'd like to have Kathleen as the mayor. I have been impressed with her from the very first moment I heard her speak, and we got to know each other on the campaign trail. I think the city has been incredibly fortunate to have somebody so dedicated to doing the job right, spending her time in the community. We were at a Habitat for Humanity event where a new family was getting their home. She was able to say, this is the name of your librarian. This is who you need to talk to over here. I mean, the details that really just wow me. And another advantage of her becoming a really terrific mayor is she's going to bring a humanity to the role that I think we sorely need. She cares about people. She cares about neighborhoods. And I think that's going to be a nice change whenever it happens, whether it's starting at this meeting or starting a year from now. I think that would be a welcome thing to have here. Another advantage of putting Kathleen in the seat now, I would love to be able to nominate a woman to take her position, her seat on the council. There was a woman who ran in the last race who really wowed me, Miranda Douglas. And I think it would be great to bring more youth and diversity to the council. Now, having already, had that in my mind, I started getting all those calls and hearing from movers and shakers and people that I respect, like David Yates. Thank you for coming here today. David talked to me. He is a guy that I have the greatest respect for. And the points made are solid. Somebody who's got experience, step in, do it for a year, step out. I understand that. And if that's the way we vote, I would give him my full support. I did hear from several people pushing for Augst Jr., but almost as quickly as those calls came in, I started hearing from people in the community, people who weren't movers and shakers, people like me who may live paycheck to paycheck. And I think, and they had real concerns. They didn't really express those things clearly, but I have a sense that a lot of it revolves around the fact that before I even ran for office, I was troubled by the idea of the former mayor's son representing all the big developers in front of the council constantly. Nothing illegal about that, nothing wrong with that, but that just is, the definition of good old boy network as far as I can tell. And I'd like to break that chain. I think it would be important. If we do go with Augst, as I said, I'll give him my full support. I did talk extensively with Mr. Margolis about conflicts, and he worked this out with Brian Augst Sr., that he would have to recuse himself. I would ask, though, that it goes beyond that and make sure that if there's something where his son's law firm is involved in a project, that he doesn't have any type of say behind the scenes either, as we're talking to the city manager or city staff. I think that would be important. I'm on record for Kathleen. I'm not sure that I wasn't sure that she wanted the job. If she does, I'm for her. If we have a third vote, I hope that happens.
Thank you. Councilmember Teixeira.
So now I'm actually the official only member that has not gone on record expressing what I thought and think. And it was intentional. Last week has been very difficult for me, and I had to process what happened. And with emotions running high, I know that I need to retreat and try to make a rational decision. And calm minds must prevail. And so, like everyone else, I received so many phone calls. I literally lived on the phone the whole week. And this is actually not an accurate depiction of what I heard. I heard so many different opinions, so many different views on what to prioritize and such. And I listened to every single one. I returned every single phone call. And throughout the whole week, I just kept asking myself, what does Clearwater need right now? The situation we're in is not normal. And so the needs are not the same as it would be if it was another situation. And the word that kept floating up for me was stability. We need stability. We've had so much change, and it's not scheduled change, so we need stability. We do not have the luxury to appoint someone with little or no experience. We do not have the luxury to appoint someone and give them the opportunity to shine, and that's sad. And we don't have the opportunity, or the luxury rather, to appoint someone who needs to navigate the learning curve. We have 11 months. Clearwater at this juncture needs someone with previous mayoral experience to seamlessly step in and steer this ship with a steady hand and stay on course. That's my rational thought. And after speaking to so many of the people who offered their services or their participation, and I thank them all, my conclusion after reviewing all the eligible candidates would be former Mayor Brian Unk Sr. I understand and I share the concern that he has a son that is so active as an attorney in this city. I've spoken to both of them at length, and I've also spoken to Mr. Margolis, and I've discussed my concerns and how to address them. And if you don't mind, Mr. Margolis, at this point, can you speak to that? I think you can do a better job than I can.
With the chair's permission.
Sure.
As the council knows, I share attorney-client privilege with each of you, and so unless specifically invited, I typically do not discuss publicly anything that each of us have discussed in private, but given the opportunity, it seems like a good time to do so. When I learned that there was some interest from the council and from the public in considering Mr. Ong Sr. for the role, the immediate question that came to my mind was how to navigate the ethics issues, particularly involving his son's involvement with various real estate deals in the city. As the council knows, Mr. Ong Jr. Represents a wide array of property owners, developers, et cetera. And so the conversation that I've had over the past several days with Mr. Ong Sr. is that in the event that he is nominated for the role and in the event that the council decides to appoint him as the mayor, there will have to be certain parameters that he would have to respect during his time as mayor. I have also separately spoken with Mr. Ong Jr. about this, and I will say, while I'm completely neutral as far as the appointment process is concerned, the assurance that they have given to me, which I will share with the council, is that they will follow these parameters if the council decides to go in that direction. Again, I'm completely neutral as to the council's decision. But if the council decides to go in that direction, one requirement certainly would be public recusal from any matters involving the McFarland-Ferguson law firm. And so that would be a requirement of Florida law. That would be a mandatory recusal under the ethics provisions in state law. The second restriction, to Councilmember Bunker's point, would be that there would be no behind-the-scenes direction, interaction, or instruction relating to Mr. Onks Jr.'s clients, because certainly to Councilmember Bunker's point, that was a concern that I had as well. It's not just what you vote on up here, it's also what you do in private, that matters as well. And so Mr. Onks gave me his commitment in writing that he would not, in fact, have any sort of involvement relating to that, would not give direction to the city manager or city staff regarding any of his son's real estate involvement, real estate deals, et cetera. Other matters that we discussed were not requirements of Florida law, and so I want to differentiate those things that are pure legal requirements from those things that involve optics and involve perception. But as to those things that involve perception, he indicated to me that he does not intend to seek re-election in 2024. I do want to say, because I know that citizens have expressed a wide range of views on that, and whether that's a good thing, a bad thing, a necessary thing, not necessary thing. I will say that there is no charter or legal requirement that a person refrain from seeking re-election. So if the council were to appoint the vice mayor or any one of you to the role of mayor, that is not a legal disability from seeking re-election. However, for people who find that to be important to them, Mr. Onks did indicate that he would not be seeking re-election. I will point out that that would be on the honor system. I mean, there is no legal effect of that pledge any more than there is anything else. Senator Rubio said in 2016 that he would be a private citizen or the United States president, and sure enough, he ended up running for re-election again. So there is no assurance beyond someone's integrity and their word. However, I do want the council to know and the public to know that I do have that commitment from him in writing, that in fact he would not be seeking re-election in March of 2024. In addition to that, although it is not a requirement of Florida law, there have been discussions with Mr. Onks Sr. as well as Mr. Onks Jr. regarding political participation in the upcoming Clearwater election of March of 2024. Mr. Onks Jr. has indicated that he is committing, if his father is appointed, to not participate in our March 2024 municipal election, which means more specifically that he would not be involved in a political committee, fundraising, campaign host committee, political expenditures relating to any election for March 2024, whether that means a re-election campaign, whether that means the mayoral campaign, et cetera. In addition to that, Mr. Onks Jr. and I had some very good conversation because he, as we know, is also an attorney. And so we talked about everything ranging from Florida bar rules to how this would be perceived, and rightly so, by the public. He, meaning Mr. Onks Jr., committed to me in writing that if the council decides to appoint his father, then Mr. Onks Jr. will not appear before the council at all at any point during his father's tenure as service as our mayor. If the law firm of McFarland-Ferguson has any matters that do require council appearance, and I do believe there are a few, because Mr. Onks Jr. and I have already had that conversation, then it would mean two things. First, as I said earlier, Mr. Onks Sr. would have to recuse himself from that vote. But number two, because Mr. Onks Jr. is agreeing that he would not appear before the council, another lawyer from his firm would in fact need to handle that. That is not a strict requirement of Florida law, but I do appreciate them making that commitment. It is a commitment that I asked them to make because I do believe that that would be important for the perception of the public and so that this council feels comfortable so that you don't have in this hypothetical, the mayor's son appearing in front of you with the mayor sitting right there, even if he were to recuse. I will say that in the several conversations that I had with Mr. Ogg Sr. as well as Mr. Ogg Jr., they were fully supportive of this. They did not fight me on it. They did not argue with it. It was not a debate or discussion, and on the contrary, they did indicate to me on more than one occasion that they are fully in support of complying both with Florida law as well as ensuring that the optics meet the public standard. So it was not a fight with them. It was not an argument. So I certainly felt much better after having those conversations with them. As I've said, I'm completely neutral on the vacancy, other than the fact that I want the council to know that if you do go in this direction, I have taken steps to protect each of you from what would happen and to protect the public.
So with that in mind, I feel confident in choosing Mr. Ogg Sr.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Margolis after that explanation? I just have one. So you said you have it in writing that, we're talking specifically about Mr. Ogg Sr., that he would take this position to fill out the remainder of the term, but that he would be committed to not running this fall, but that's not anything legally binding. It's kind of an honor system, but it is in writing?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. So, thank you for sharing your thoughts on who should fill that position. And I appreciate your vote of confidence, especially the vote of confidence that I think any one of us could fill this seat. I feel that having someone from this council fill this seat is the most prudent thing to do. It will help us move forward more expeditiously as we are all apprised of the issues before us. I feel confident that I can fill this position and continue our collaboration with each other and city staff as we serve together. I would like to remind us that this is a city manager council form of government. And so, stability and experience as mayor is valid. But it's not a strong mayor form of government here. We all have the same vote. We all look at the same information when we make our decisions. And so relationships are fine, and I certainly believe that they're valuable. Relationships with residents, relationships with businesses, with large corporations, attracting businesses to Clearwater, different institutions. But we all can have that as well. And it's not the function of a mayor to go out necessarily and do all that work in a council member, city manager form of government. It's certainly appreciated, but that's not the real function. So I just wanted to be clear about that. However, let me also be clear that if we discuss an appointment of one of us, I can only speak for myself, and I would ask, is anyone here interested in being considered? You have the most seniority. When we talk about experience and stability, Councilmember Albritton, are you considering it all, moving into that position? Would you consider it?
Well, again, I feel that relationships are very important for a mayor because he's the point man of our council. I probably have more experience with that being on Fort Pinellas and PSTA because every month I'm meeting with mayors and all elected officials from, around the county. But to answer your question, no. No, I think here's the way I look at it. If I wanted to take over the interim position as mayor, I would be done in a year. I have 3 years left. I think I still want, and I have no interest in running for mayor after when I'm termed out at the end of this one, that's going to be it for me. But I want to give it the best shot I can get the next 3 years to get those things that I promised my constituents I was going to really give them. And I think we've done such a good job of it so far. But we do have some other work to do, and I want to stay here for that and get it done. And I want to mention your job. And I wanted to tell you what a great job you did taking over from Frank last Monday. You just jumped right in and... And I know that you're interested in running for mayor next time around, and I wish you the best on that. I'd like to see you run for mayor. I don't want you to be handcuffed, by taking an interim position to say, well, I'm not going to run. Mm-hmm. So all those things I had to take in consideration for what I came up with, but I meant it when I said any of us could do the job. We could up here. So,
Well, I appreciate that. I would, in a moment, so, I don't feel my job is done yet either. And, I have significant reasons about why I want to continue the work in this city, the city that I love, that I chose to move to, that I've worked so hard the last number of years, that I think we've made great progress. I want to continue the work of improving neighborhoods and access to housing across the city. I want to ensure that North Greenwood CRA is successful. Mm-hmm. It's important that we implement our resiliency plans and meet our Greenprint 2.0 goals. We need to continue to focus on safety on our streets across our city, and we need to do a lot more work in lowering housing-related costs and increasing housing access. So for these reasons, it's important to me to continue to serve residents. And I do plan to run again for another 4 years. And I have not made up my mind yet whether or not a mayor's position or the council position, but I would not want to be, put into a position of accepting an interim mayor and then agreeing not to run in the fall. And so with that in mind, is that kind of, what's the consensus on we want someone to fill the position with an agreement not to run in the fall? So let's cross that hurdle first. Is that,
Yes,
Councilmember Teixeira, that's essential?
It is. I feel it's an unfair advantage to those who are running. I do want an even playing field. And I do see a significant difference between the mayor and the council, and that's why I don't want to be it. It's not an honorary rotating position if that person is specifically elected to be mayor, and I'm acutely aware of how much more work and responsibility the mayor has, and so therefore I'm not interested at this point in my life I'm not able to dedicate that much more, and so I do see a difference, and I do think that having someone be interim does give them an advantage, and I really am thinking of the election and having a fair playing field.
Okay. Councilmember Bunker?
I have no problem with somebody filling the position and running.
Okay. Councilmember Albritton?
I think that if somebody fills this position, they should not run. Next one. I think going through the crucible of fire of campaigning is a good way to vet people if they're going to be able to take office.
Okay. Mr. Margolis.
I wouldn't want that job. I don't envy any of you. Just wanted to point out, and I'm sure the clerk will appreciate, so there is a motion pending currently before the body, and there's lots of good discussion, which is terrific, but just to remind the council that there has already been a motion made by Councilmember Albritton and seconded by Councilmember Teixeira, and so procedurally, once you're done discussing, and by all means can continue the conversation, but we'll need to come back to that motion, which would either need to be disposed of by a vote, which would ultimately be a vote yes or no on the motion that was made, or if for any reason the movement would like to modify, amend that motion, or withdraw the motion, then we can have that conversation as well. So just wanted to remind everyone for the record, procedurally, where we are at.
Thank you. So it does seem very important to a majority of the council that the person who's appointed to fill the vacancy is not going to be running in the fall. We have that stipulation. So I'd like to take a moment to share my thoughts on considerations for candidates to fill this position. I do realize we have a motion, but I think it's important to have someone who is collaborative with the community and the council, someone who views their position as an equal to other council members and not a superior. Someone who is up to speed on city issues, not just on businesses and buildings, but in tune with residents across the entire city. Someone who will respect decisions made by the council. Someone with strong ethics, a voice for the neighborhoods, who has experience, who supports the city's strategic plan, including sustainability. And I think that's important. And I think just one more thing just to acknowledge. I want to thank the people who have expressed interest by calling me. Mr. Onk Sr. did call me, and we had a meeting for a little over an hour on Sunday in person, and that was very informative and pleasant. I appreciate Mr. Johnson's email and his willingness to serve in any position. I think his ethics and his past behavior and service reflects a lot of my values, and I appreciate that very much. His name was not brought up by anyone up here, so I'm not going to belabor that. I would just ask Rosemary, can you confirm if anyone else has written in or asked to be considered?
There were emails from Kathy Flaherty who expressed, I believe, council has received those emails, but no one else has expressed any.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Albritton to appoint Mr. Brian Onk Sr. as the interim mayor with the understanding of all the ethical recusals and the written commitment not to run in the fall.
My intention would be, if that's the will of the council, to promptly share this with everyone. I'm sure the press will be interested. Obviously, the public will be interested. I have already shared it with the city manager, so we will share that with everyone so that we can see exactly what the commitment is. And as I said, there was no resistance. On the contrary, they were actively willing and actively wanting to participate in that process, because I think they understand that not only is it important to comply with the law, but also the integrity of this process and the public perception is equally important.
Absolutely.
Not just the black letter of the law as well. So if that's the council's direction, I wanted to make sure that we are prepared for it, and so I am prepared for it if that's the direction the council decides to go.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any additional comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. I think that sets a good precedent going forward. So congratulations to Mr. Brian Onk Sr. I think he'll do a fine job up here. I look forward to working with him, all of us collaboratively. So we need to discuss a date for swearing in of that mayor's position. And we're thinking it would be after the April 4th meeting. Mr. Margolis, okay. Why don't you, if you can just, the conversation can go outside, that'd be fantastic. Thank you. Or just whisper on your way out. Okay. All right, Mr. Margolis.
Thank you. If it's okay with the council, I would recommend that the clerk coordinate that date with Mr. Onk Sr. That way, because it's not just about the council schedule, but also about his schedule. He may have family, friends. I've heard that there are dignitaries who may be interested in attending. And so if the council would feel comfortable delegating that to the clerk, I think that would be the best thing. Of course, we will meet all of the sunshine requirements for public notice, so that would not be a problem at all. We have 30 days, so that's plenty of time. So we'd probably be looking second week in April, most likely, or at least sometime after the 4th.
For him to join the council.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All good? All right, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to agenda item 4, our city manager, Jennifer Poirier.
Thank you. First and foremost, I too want to echo and thank everyone for the engagement today. It is invigorating, and I hope this level of engagement continues. We have a lot of opportunity for that through the budget process that's coming up. Also have several neighborhoods, associations, as well as the engagement process for Coachman Park. So please check out our website for additional information to engage with us. Secondly, I wanted to provide a brief explanation regarding the project list that was discussed at our strategic budget session on last Monday. There's been a lot of references to the $250 million list of priorities that was discussed. And I just want to be clear that that was our priority list. That was not a budget, and certainly not an approved deficit for us to operate out of. That is the total estimated cost of the projects that have not yet been fully vetted. And also if those costs had all been simultaneously done in an aggressive time frame. For example, on that list was $49 million allocated for the ADA transition plan. That $49 million did not include any of the work that's already been done, of which is substantial, nor did it take into consideration that that plan was actually meant to be implemented over the next 10 to 15 years, not immediately. That list also includes projects that are not funded through the general fund. So these are all things that are going to be vetted through staff and brought through the public process at the budget session. There can be no progress without priorities and planning, and that's what we did last week. So I thank the council for that, and we look forward to our upcoming budget session.
Any final comments, Mr. Margolis? We all good? Everybody good up here? All right. Thank you all for attending. The meeting is adjourned.